The question came from nowhere, soft and curious, slicing through Marcus Brennan's carefully constructed armor like a blade made of silk. He stood frozen on the sidewalk, briefcase in hand, eyes burning with tears he had spent 48 years learning to suppress. Behind him, a small voice repeated, louder this time, tugging at her mother's sleeve, "Mommy, why is that man crying?" Marcus did not turn around. He could not. His chest felt tight. His throat closed, and for the first time since he was 7 years old, standing at his father's funeral, Marcus Brennan had no control. The city moved around him, taxis honking, people rushing past, the smell of roasted chestnuts drifting from a corner cart. But all he could hear was that tiny voice, innocent and relentless, asking the one question no one else dared to ask. Why are you crying? 12 hours earlier, Marcus had been exactly where he always was, behind his desk on the 53rd floor of the Brennan Tower, overlooking the city like a king surveying his kingdom. The office was pristine, glass and steel, minimalist and cold, everything in its place, everything controlled. His assistant knocked softly before entering. "Mr. Brennan, the merger documents are ready for your signature." Marcus nodded without looking up. He signed where he was told, initialed where required, and handed the folder back without a word. Efficiency, precision, no wasted movement. That was how Marcus lived. It was how he survived. At 48, he had built an empire from nothing. Real estate, tech investments, luxury hotels scattered across 3 continents. His name appeared in Forbes articles and business journals. People called him brilliant, ruthless, untouchable. What they did not call him was happy. That evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, Marcus stood at the window, staring at his reflection in the glass. Sharp suit, graying temples, eyes that looked older than they should. Somewhere in the building below, people were laughing, sharing stories, making plans for dinner. Marcus would go home to an empty penthouse, eat takeout at a marble counter, and fall asleep to the hum of silence. He told himself this was enough. He told himself this was what success looked like. But deep down, in a place he refused to acknowledge, Marcus knew the truth. He was lonely. Desperately, achingly lonely. The call came at 7:43 the next morning. Marcus was already awake, running on a treadmill in his home gym, when his phone buzzed on the console. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. Then something made him answer. "Mr. Brennan?" The voice was professional, measured. "This is St. Catherine's Hospital. We have you listed as the emergency contact for Claire Brennan." Marcus stopped running. The treadmill belt continued moving beneath his feet until he stumbled, catching himself on the handrail. "What happened?" "She was admitted last night. Pneumonia. Her condition deteriorated quickly. You should come now." Marcus did not remember getting dressed, did not remember the elevator ride down, or the way his driver looked at him with concern. All he remembered was the white hallway, the smell of disinfectant, and the nurse's gentle hand on his shoulder as she led him to a room at the end of the corridor. Claire was his aunt, his father's younger sister, the only family he had left. She was 82 years old, small and frail, her silver hair spread across the pillow like spun glass. Machines beeped softly around her. Her breathing was shallow, labored. Marcus sat in the chair beside her bed and took her hand. It was cold, so cold. "Claire," he whispered, "I'm here." Her eyes fluttered open, cloudy but aware. She smiled, just barely. "Marcus," she breathed. "My boy." He squeezed her hand gently. "Don't talk. Save your strength." But Claire shook her head slowly. "No time for that." Her voice was barely audible. "Need to tell you something." Marcus leaned closer. "I'm listening." "You've been running," she said. "Running so fast, so far. But you forgot something." "What?" Claire's eyes filled with tears. "You forgot how to live." The words hit him harder than any business loss, any failed deal. He opened his mouth to respond, but nothing came. "When your father died," Claire continued, "you built walls. I watched you do it, brick by brick. You told yourself feelings were weakness. Connection was risk. Love was dangerous. She coughed softly. But Marcus, those walls, they didn't protect you. They buried you. Marcus felt something crack inside his chest, something he had sealed away for decades. I don't know how to be any other way, he admitted. Claire smiled sadly. Yes, you do. You just forgot. Her grip tightened weakly around his fingers. Promise me something. Anything. Let someone in. Just one person. Let them see you, the real you, not the man in the magazines. Marcus's throat burned. I promise. Claire's breathing grew softer. The machines around her began to slow their rhythm. A nurse entered quietly, checked the monitors, and looked at Marcus with gentle sympathy. He knew what it meant. I love you, Marcus whispered, his voice breaking. I love you so much. Claire's eyes closed. Her hand went limp in his, and then she was gone. Marcus did not cry at the hospital. He signed the papers, made the necessary calls, and arranged everything with the same cold efficiency he used in business. The funeral was small, just Marcus and a handful of Claire's friends from the senior center where she volunteered. He stood at the graveside in his black suit, sunglasses hiding his eyes, and listened to the priest speak words that felt hollow and distant. When it was over, people offered condolences. He shook hands, nodded politely, and thanked them for coming. Then he got into his car and told his driver to take him home. But halfway there, something inside him snapped. Stop the car, he said suddenly. The driver glanced in the rearview mirror. Sir? Stop now. The car pulled over. Marcus stepped out onto the busy sidewalk, briefcase in hand, and began walking. He had no destination, no plan. He just walked. The city blurred around him. People rushed past, absorbed in their own worlds. No one looked at him, no one saw him. He was invisible, just another face in the crowd. And suddenly, for the first time in decades, the walls he had built began to crumble. His eyes burned, his vision blurred. He tried to blink it away, tried to push it down, but it was too strong. Tears spilled over, hot and unstoppable, streaming down his face. He stood there on the sidewalk, briefcase clutched in one hand, crying openly in the middle of the city, and that was when he heard it. Mommy, why is that man crying? Marcus turned slowly. A little girl stood a few feet away, no more than 5 years old. She had dark curls pulled into 2 pigtails, a bright yellow raincoat buttoned up to her chin, and wide brown eyes filled with innocent curiosity. Beside her stood a woman, mid-30s, holding the child's hand. She looked exhausted, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, dark circles under her eyes. Her jeans were faded, her jacket worn. But when she saw Marcus's face, something softened in her expression. I'm sorry, the woman said gently, starting to pull the child away. We didn't mean to intrude. But the little girl did not move. She stepped closer, tilting her head. Are you sad? Marcus wiped his face quickly, embarrassed. I'm fine. You don't look fine, the girl said matter-of-factly. You look like you need a hug. The mother's eyes widened. Lily, we don't... But Lily was already moving. She walked right up to Marcus, wrapped her small arms around his leg, and squeezed. Marcus stood frozen, stunned. He looked down at the tiny girl clinging to him, her face pressed against his knee, and something inside him shattered completely. He dropped to his knees on the cold sidewalk, and without thinking, without controlling it, he hugged her back. The woman knelt beside them, her hand on her daughter's shoulder. I'm sorry, she whispered. She's very affectionate. Marcus shook his head, unable to speak. Lily pulled back and looked at him seriously. My daddy's gone, she said. He's in heaven. Mommy says it's okay to be sad about people in heaven because it means we love them. Marcus's breath caught. The mother's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away quickly. Lily, that's enough. We should let this man... What's your name? Lily interrupted, looking at Marcus. He swallowed hard. Marcus. I'm Lily. She pointed to her mother. That's my mommy. Her name is Grace. Grace, the name felt like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Marcus looked up at her. She was beautiful, not in the polished, manufactured way of the women he usually met, but in a raw, honest way. Her eyes held depth, pain, resilience. She looked like someone who had survived something terrible and kept going anyway. I'm really sorry about your loss, Grace said softly. I can see you're grieving. Marcus nodded, not trusting his voice. Grief is hard, she continued, but it's also proof that you loved someone. That matters. Lily tugged on his sleeve. Do you want to come and have pancakes with us? Mommy makes the best pancakes. They have chocolate chips. Grace's face flushed. Lily, Mr. Marcus probably has. Actually, Marcus heard himself say, I don't have anywhere to be? Grace looked surprised. You don't have to. She just gets very enthusiastic about pancakes. Marcus stood slowly, wiping his face one more time. He looked at this woman and her daughter, strangers who had stopped in the middle of their day because a little girl noticed his pain. I'd like that, he said quietly, if you're sure it's okay. Grace studied him for a long moment. Whatever she saw made her nod. Okay, but just so you know, our apartment is small, and the pancakes might be a little burnt. Marcus smiled for the first time in days. That sounds perfect. They walked 3 blocks to a modest brick building with chipped paint and a flickering streetlight out front. Grace led them up 2 flights of narrow stairs, Lily skipping ahead, her yellow raincoat bouncing with each step. Marcus followed quietly, briefcase still in hand, feeling oddly out of place in his $1,000 suit. The apartment was tiny. A single room served as living room, dining area, and kitchen. A small hallway led to what Marcus assumed was a bedroom and bathroom. The furniture was mismatched but clean, decorated with crayon drawings taped to the walls and a basket of toys in the corner. It smelled like cinnamon and something warm, something that felt like home. Sorry about the mess, Grace said, quickly gathering coloring books from the small table. We weren't expecting company. It's perfect, Marcus said, and he meant it. Lily grabbed his hand and pulled him to the table. You sit here. That's the best chair. It doesn't wobble as much. Marcus sat, placing his briefcase carefully on the floor. He watched as Grace moved around the tiny kitchen with practiced efficiency, pulling out a mixing bowl, flour, eggs. Her movements were graceful despite the cramped space. Can I help? Marcus offered. Grace glanced over her shoulder, surprised. You cook? No, he admitted, but I can follow instructions. She smiled. Okay, you can crack the eggs. Marcus stood and joined her at the counter. She handed him 3 eggs in a small bowl. He cracked the first one carefully, then the second. The third one he crushed too hard, shell fragments falling into the bowl. Oops, Lily giggled from the table. Grace gently fished out the shells with a spoon. It's okay. That happens to everyone. Not to me, Marcus said quietly. I don't usually mess things up. Grace looked at him curiously. Must be exhausting being perfect all the time. Marcus paused. No one had ever said it like that before. It is. They worked in comfortable silence. Grace mixed the batter while Marcus watched, occasionally handing her ingredients when she asked. Lily colored at the table, humming softly to herself. So what do you do, Marcus? Grace asked as she poured batter onto the heated griddle. I work in real estate and investments, he said carefully, leaving out the empire, the tower, the magazine covers. That sounds important. It pays the bills. He hesitated. What about you? Grace flipped a pancake. I'm a nurse, night shift at St. Catherine's Hospital. Marcus's heart skipped. St. Catherine's? Yeah, I work in the ICU. She glanced at him. Were you there recently? You look familiar. My aunt, he said softly. She passed away this morning, Claire Brennan. Grace's hand went to her mouth. Oh my God, Mrs. Brennan, I took care of her last night. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry. She was such a lovely woman. She talked about you." Marcus looked up sharply. "She did?" "She said you were brilliant and successful, but that she worried about you. She said you worked too hard and loved too little." Grace wiped her eyes quickly. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that." "No," Marcus said. She was right. The pancakes sizzled on the griddle. Grace plated them carefully, adding chocolate chips in the shape of a smiley face on Lily's stack. They sat at the small table together, knees almost touching in the cramped space. Lily said, "Grace," her small voice clear and earnest, "thank you for the food and for bringing Mr. Marcus to us." "Amen." Marcus's throat tightened. When was the last time someone had prayed for him? They ate slowly. The pancakes were slightly burnt on the edges, just as Grace had warned, but Marcus thought they were the best thing he had ever tasted. Not because of the flavor, but because of the feeling in the room: warmth, acceptance, belonging. "Your aunt talked about you for almost an hour last night," Grace said softly. "She told me stories about when you were little, how you used to build towers out of blocks and refused to go to bed until they were perfect." Marcus smiled despite himself. "She remembered that?" "She remembered everything." Grace paused. "She said she wished she could have convinced you that people are more important than buildings." The words hit Marcus like a punch. He set down his fork, unable to eat any more. Lily reached over and patted his hand. "It's okay to be sad. Mommy cries sometimes, too." Grace's eyes met Marcus's across the table. In that moment, he saw something he recognized: grief, loneliness, the weight of carrying on when everything felt too heavy. "How long ago?" he asked gently. Grace knew what he meant. 2 years, car accident. Drunk driver ran a red light. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled slightly. Lily was only 3. She barely remembers him. "I remember his voice," Lily said quietly. "He used to sing to me." Grace stroked her daughter's hair. "Yes, he did." Marcus looked at this woman who had lost everything and still found the strength to stop for a stranger on the sidewalk, who worked night shifts at a hospital and came home to make pancakes for her daughter, who had every reason to be bitter but chose kindness instead. "Thank you," he said, "for stopping, for bringing me here, for this." He gestured to the table, the apartment, them. Grace smiled softly. Lily stopped. I just followed her lead. After breakfast, Lily insisted on showing Marcus her drawings. She pulled out a shoebox full of crayon artwork, each one more colorful and chaotic than the last. "This is my family," she said, holding up a picture of 3 stick figures. "That's Mommy, that's me, and that's Daddy in heaven. See? He has wings." Marcus studied the drawing carefully. "It's beautiful." "You can have it," Lily said, pressing it into his hands. "So you remember that sad people need hugs." Marcus looked down at the simple drawing, at the stick figure angel with crooked wings, and felt something crack open inside his chest. "I'll treasure it," he whispered. When it was time to leave, Marcus stood at the door, reluctant to return to his empty penthouse. Grace walked him out to the hallway. "Thank you again," he said. "I don't usually fall apart in public." "Maybe you should," Grace said gently. "More often. It's healthier than keeping it all inside." He smiled. "My aunt would have liked you." "I liked her." Grace paused. "If you ever need to talk, or just want burnt pancakes, you know where to find us." Marcus pulled out his wallet and extracted a business card. His hand hovered over it for a moment. Then he wrote his personal cell number on the back. "If you or Lily ever need anything," he said, "anything at all." Grace took the card, studying it. Her eyes widened slightly when she saw the company name, but she said nothing. "Thank you, Marcus." He walked down the stairs slowly, Lily's drawing carefully folded in his jacket pocket. When he reached the street, he looked back up at the building. Grace and Lily stood at the window, waving. He waved back, and for the first time in decades, Marcus Brennan felt something shift inside him. Not just grief, not just pain, but something else. Hope. The next few days passed in a blur. Marcus threw himself into work, trying to bury the ache in his chest beneath spreadsheets and conference calls. But every night, alone in his penthouse, he pulled out Lily's drawing and stared at it, the stick-figure angel with crooked wings. The reminder that sad people need hugs. He thought about Claire's final words, "Let someone in." He thought about Grace's tired eyes and gentle smile, about Lily's innocent wisdom, about pancakes in a cramped apartment that felt more like home than his $1 million penthouse ever had. On the fourth day, his assistant knocked on his office door. "Mr. Brennan, there's a woman here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important. Her name is Grace Walker." Marcus's heart jumped. "Send her in." Grace entered hesitantly, still wearing her nurse's scrubs, her hair pulled back. She looked exhausted, like she had just finished a night shift. "I'm sorry to bother you at work," she said. "I tried calling, but—" Ugh. "Is Lily okay?" Marcus stood quickly. "She's fine." "She's with my neighbor." Grace twisted her hands nervously. "I came because I need help, and I didn't know who else to ask." "Anything," Marcus said immediately. "What do you need?" Grace's eyes filled with tears. "I got a notice yesterday. My landlord is selling the building. We have 30 days to move out, and I can't find anywhere I can afford. Everything in this city is too expensive, and with my shifts and Lily's school—" Her voice broke. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have come. You don't need my problems." "Stop," Marcus said gently. He came around the desk and guided her to the leather couch by the window. "Sit, please." She sat, wiping her eyes. "I'm not asking for money. I just thought maybe you knew someone, some real estate connection, who could help me find something affordable." Marcus sat beside her. "I own several apartment buildings in the city." Grace looked up startled. "You do?" "I have a property in Lily's school district. Good neighborhood, safe, well-maintained. There's a 2-bedroom unit available on the ground floor. It has a small garden in the back. I can't afford—" "The previous tenant was paying $800 a month. That's what you'll pay." Grace's eyes widened. "That's not market rate?" That's what I'm offering." Marcus leaned forward. "Grace, you stopped your whole day because my aunt taught a little girl that sad people need hugs. You brought a stranger into your home and fed him burnt pancakes. You cared for my aunt in her final hours." His voice softened. "Let me do this, please." Grace stared at him, tears streaming down her face. "Why?" "Because," Marcus said quietly, "someone once told me that people are more important than buildings, and I'm starting to believe her." Grace covered her face with her hands and sobbed. Not from sadness, but from relief, from exhaustion, from the weight of carrying everything alone finally becoming lighter. Marcus sat beside her, not touching, just present, just there. When she finally composed herself, Grace looked at him with red-rimmed eyes. "Thank you. I don't know how to repay you." "You already did," Marcus said. "You reminded me that I'm human." The move happened 2 weeks later. Marcus sent his assistant to coordinate everything, professional movers, packing supplies, the works. But on moving day, Marcus showed up himself, in jeans and a plain t-shirt, ready to carry boxes. Grace stared at him from the doorway of her old apartment. "You don't have to do this." "I know," Marcus said, picking up a box labeled kitchen. "But I want to." They worked side by side, loading boxes into the truck. Lily supervised, giving directions, and insisting that her stuffed animals ride in the front seat. By afternoon, the old apartment was empty. The new place was bright and clean, with large windows and hardwood floors. The garden in back had a small swing set that Marcus had installed the day before. When Lily saw it, she shrieked with joy and ran outside. Grace stood in the living room, turning slowly to take it all in. "It's too much," she whispered. "It's just right," Marcus corrected. They spent the evening unpacking. Marcus assembled Lily's bed frame while Grace organized the kitchen. They ordered pizza for dinner and ate sitting on the floor because the table hadn't been delivered yet. Lily fell asleep curled up on a pile of blankets, exhausted from the excitement. Grace carried her daughter to the bedroom and tucked her in. When she returned, Marcus was stacking empty boxes by the door. "You should go," Grace said softly. "You've done more than enough." Marcus paused. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why do you trust me? You barely know me." Grace smiled. "Lily has good instincts. She saw something in you that day on the sidewalk, something real." She stepped closer. "And honestly, I've seen a lot of people at their worst, in the hospital, in crisis. You can tell a lot about someone by how they handle grief. You didn't hide behind your money or your title. You just hurt, openly and honestly." She paused. "That takes courage." Marcus looked at her, really looked. In the dim light of the living room, surrounded by boxes and new beginnings, Grace Walker was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen, not because of her appearance, but because of her heart, her strength, her grace. "I'd like to see you again," he said quietly, "if that's okay. Not as your landlord or some kind of benefactor, just as Marcus." Grace studied his face for a long moment. "Just as Marcus?" "Just as Marcus." She smiled. "I'd like that." Over the following weeks, Marcus became a regular presence in their lives. He came for dinner twice a week, always bringing something: groceries, flowers, a new book for Lily. He played tea party with Lily's stuffed animals. His tall frame folded awkwardly into a tiny plastic chair. He helped Grace with household repairs, admitting sheepishly that he was terrible with tools, but willing to learn. He attended Lily's kindergarten play, sitting in the audience beside Grace, applauding louder than anyone when Lily appeared on stage as a flower. Slowly, carefully, the walls Marcus had built began to come down. He talked about his childhood, about losing his father, about the loneliness that had shaped his life. Grace listened without judgment, sharing her own stories of loss and resilience. They discovered they both loved old movies and terrible puns, that they both preferred tea over coffee, that they both carried more pain than they showed the world. One evening, after Lily was asleep, Marcus and Grace sat in the garden, the swing set creaking gently in the breeze. "I never thought I'd have this," Marcus said quietly. "Have what?" "This feeling, like I belong somewhere." He looked at her. "Like I'm home." Grace reached over and took his hand. "You are home, Marcus. You've been home for a while now. You just needed someone to show you where it was." He squeezed her fingers gently. "Thank you for seeing me, the real me. Thank you for letting me." They sat in comfortable silence, hands intertwined, as the city hummed around them. Above, stars began to appear, tiny points of light breaking through the darkness. And in that small garden, in that quiet moment, two broken hearts began to heal together. 3 months later, Marcus made a decision. He walked into his office early one Monday morning and called his executive team together. "I'm stepping back," he announced. "Effective immediately, I'm transitioning to a consulting role. I'll still be involved, but I won't be running day-to-day operations anymore." His team stared at him in shock. "But sir," his CFO stammered, "you've never taken a step back from anything." "I know," Marcus said. "That's the problem." He spent the next week restructuring his life. He sold the penthouse and moved into a modest brownstone 3 blocks from Grace and Lily. He started volunteering at St. Catherine's Hospital, funding a new wing for long-term care in Claire's name. He learned to cook, badly at first, but with enthusiasm. He took Lily to the park every Saturday morning while Grace slept in after her night shifts. He showed up, consistently, honestly, without pretense or agenda. And somewhere along the way, without announcement or ceremony, he became part of their family. One evening, Lily was coloring at the kitchen table while Marcus helped Grace prepare dinner. The little girl looked up suddenly, her crayon paused mid-stroke. "Mr. Marcus?" "Yes, sweetheart. Are you going to be my new daddy?" The kitchen went silent. Grace froze, her hand on the refrigerator door. Marcus knelt beside Lily's chair, his heart pounding. Would you want me to be? Lily considered this seriously. Would you sing to me like my first daddy did? Marcus's throat tightened. I'm not a very good singer. That's okay. You can learn. She tilted her head. Would you stay? Forever? If your mommy wants me to, then yes, I'd stay forever. Lily turned to Grace. Mommy, do you want him to stay? Grace's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Marcus, really looked, seeing the man who had walked into their lives broken and sad, who had let them heal him while he helped them build a new life. Yes, she whispered, I want him to stay. Lily nodded, satisfied, and went back to her coloring. Okay, but you have to promise to always make pancakes on Sundays. Marcus laughed, tears streaming down his face. I promise. That night, after Lily was asleep, Marcus and Grace sat on the couch, her head on his shoulder. I love you, he said quietly. I know it might be too soon, or maybe it's too fast, but I need you to know. I love you, both of you. Grace lifted her head and looked at him. It's not too soon, and it's not too fast. She cupped his face gently. I love you too, Marcus. You gave us a home, but you also let us give you one. That's the most beautiful thing anyone has ever done. He kissed her then, soft and tender, sealing a promise neither of them had expected to make. Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm. But inside that small brownstone, in that moment of quiet joy, 3 hearts that had been broken found their way home. 6 months later, on a sunny Saturday morning, Marcus knelt in the garden beside the swing set. Lily sat across from him, her small hands clutching a velvet box. Remember, she whispered seriously, you have to ask nicely. Marcus smiled. I will. They had planned this together, he and Lily. The little girl had insisted on being part of the proposal, and Marcus could not imagine it any other way. Grace appeared at the back door carrying a tray of lemonade. She stopped when she saw them, her eyes widening. What's going on? Lily jumped up. Mommy, come here. Quick! Grace set down the tray and walked over slowly. Marcus took her hands in his. Grace Walker, he began, 6 months ago, your daughter stopped on a sidewalk because a stranger was crying. She asked why, and instead of walking away, you stayed. You brought me into your home, fed me burnt pancakes, and reminded me that I was human. His voice cracked. You didn't fix me. You didn't try to change me. You just loved me, exactly as I was, broken and lost and learning how to be whole again. Grace's hands trembled in his. Tears streamed down her face. And now, Marcus continued, I can't imagine my life without you, without Lily, without these Sunday pancakes and terrible puns and swing sets in tiny gardens. He nodded to Lily, who opened the velvet box, revealing a simple, elegant ring. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life showing you that people are more important than buildings? That love is more valuable than any empire? Grace looked at the ring, at Lily's excited face, at Marcus's tear-filled eyes. Yes, she whispered. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes. Lily cheered and threw her arms around both of them. They collapsed onto the grass, laughing and crying, tangled together in a heap of joy. Marcus slipped the ring onto Grace's finger and kissed her, while Lily danced around them, singing about weddings and cake. Later, as the sun began to set, they sat together on the porch steps. Lily had fallen asleep between them, her head on Marcus's lap. Grace leaned against his shoulder, her hand resting on his chest. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For stopping that day, for letting Lily hug you, for being brave enough to fall apart so we could help put you back together. Marcus kissed the top of her head. Thank you for seeing me, for teaching me that the best things in life aren't built, they're found, in burnt pancakes and crayon drawings and little girls who ask why strangers are crying. Above them, stars filled the sky. Around them, the city hummed its endless song. But in that moment, on those porch steps, with the people he loved most in the world, Marcus Brennan was finally, truly home. He had spent 48 years building an empire, but it took one question from a 5-year-old girl to teach him what really mattered. Sometimes the things we need most find us when we're at our lowest. Sometimes healing comes from the smallest hands and the gentlest hearts. And sometimes the greatest success is learning that being loved is more important than being powerful. Thank you for sharing this moment of chance, connection, and meaning. If this story reminded you that fate often hides in everyday moments, then please subscribe to Lucky Encounters. We bring you heartfelt tales of serendipity, where a simple twist of life can change everything. Until next time, stay open, stay hopeful, and remember, sometimes luck is just love in disguise. Subscribe now.